Segment 3, Golden Black Live. Brian Hubert joins me. I want to thank our sponsors, Triple X, on the hill but on the level, of Purdue tradition since 1929, and we appreciate Greg and Kerry Ayersman. We also appreciate John Basham and the folks at Basham Rentals already taking applications and then some for 2017-18. Hilton Garden Inn, Christy Kuntz, the good folks down there when tomorrow's a big day, State HGI tonight, and State Farm agent Trent Johnson. Trent is myagent.com, and Trent loves his Purdue basketball and always has an interesting take on what's going on. I really thought Larry's take, Brian, on the whole, what were some of the dangerous games left. He's talking about Penn State and Indiana, but it is Purdue. It's there for Purdue to take. But I thought you said something during the break that really hit home. It's a luxury for Matt Painter to have a guy like Caleb Biggie Swanigan that you know is going to do the job day in and day out.
Yeah. When you consider the show-up factor, Purdue really, and I've said this all year long, ever since the start of the year, when you know exactly what you're getting from an effort and a direction and a focus standpoint from your best player, that's an unbelievable luxury to have as a coach. That is not a luxury Purdue has had the last couple years, without naming any names here. But Caleb Swanigan is an absolute pillar of consistency. He is the same guy every single game. His effort is uncompromising. His focus is uncompromising. Nothing phases him. He is the same guy in every sense of the term, every single day, every single game. And when you go into situations here where you're looking at the dynamics of every single game, there aren't as many variables because you know your constant's going to be your constant. And that's just an incredible luxury. Purdue's enjoyed all season long, even when Purdue has slipped on some banana peels here through the course of the Big Ten season. It's not been for lack of effort on people's part. There's been some defensive slippage, and it seems like Purdue learned a very hard lesson after Nebraska. Things have been different since then. But when you look at things moving forward, I think Caleb Swanigan's an unbelievable building block to be going into this Big Ten championship stretch run built on.
Yeah, it's great luxury to have. It's been interesting. We've hit this on the show. You look at the banana peel games that we're mainly talking about. At Iowa and at Nebraska, and those teams hit some amazing shots at difficult times from guys that you didn't necessarily expect. But that seems to have really, not slowed down, but almost come to a halt. Purdue is doing kind of what you expect, dominating the way and that it needs to, and finishing games at a very high level.
Yeah, what you're seeing Purdue do right now is what they didn't do when they've slipped. Is they're making plays at the ends of games and they're winning with defense. Now, before, Purdue's been the best offensive team in the Big Ten all season long.
No question.
The last two games, they've slipped a little bit in their percentages. They've not scored as many points, but they've won those games. And I think when you put the two things next to each other, it's probably not a coincidence that Purdue's winning now with defense when before it lost some games with offense when it was so good at offense. This is never a team that was built to just outscore everyone. Purdue was going to have to, and there were obviously serious questions about this team defensively coming into the year for very good reasons that have not changed. But this is a situation where Purdue has almost found the other half of its identity lately, and as the offense has kind of not been as good the last two games, and that it's a pretty high standard we're putting that up against based on how they've been most of the season. As the offense has stepped back a little bit, they have been able to find a new identity when they've needed one, and they've won the Indiana game, and they were going to win the Rutgers game, probably no matter what. Yeah. But they won the Indiana game on the road with defense. They won the Maryland game, just looking at the final sequences, on the road with defense. And if it can get to the point where Purdue's playing offense the way it did for most of the Big Ten season while playing defense the way it is right now, this is going to be a really, really difficult team to beat.
Yeah, and you look at the schedule down the stretch, and obviously the 5 games that you have left in the regular season. But this team is also very well poised to I would agree with you. There really isn't anybody in the conference that is better. This is a team that's poised to do well in the Big Ten tournament, and I know that that's just a precursor to what we're all waiting for, which is the NCAA. But you get the sense with this group, it's the proverbial one game at a time. Is that a fair thing to say? They seem to be very focused.
It absolutely has to be. I mean, it absolutely has to be. I mean, it's easy for us, and it's our jobs to sit here and talk about things that aren't maybe necessarily the immediate priority for the subject we cover. But if anybody's overlooking Michigan State tomorrow, that will be a grave error. because this is the either the best or the second best now three-point shooting team in the Big Ten. This is a team with an uber-talented pro in waiting in Miles Bridges. This is one of the few teams in the league that has a big man physically and skill-wise that can at least compete with Purdue's big guys. Nick Ward is really good. They've got quickness. They should have more toughness than they do based on their pedigree at Michigan State. They're playing for their NCAA tournament lives. You know, Tom Izzo doesn't want to get swept by Purdue. I guarantee you he is pushing every button imaginable. But I thought he pushed every button imaginable probably too before the first Purdue-Michigan State game, and Purdue handled them. And the fact that you've beaten this opponent already, Purdue's got to make sure that that doesn't affect what they do whatsoever, because the only other two-game doubleheader for the season that they've completed already to this point in the season was Iowa. Mm-hmm. They beat Iowa by 26, or whatever it was in Mack Arena, go to Iowa 2 weeks later, and that they completely fell off the map defensively. And, you know, Purdue cannot allow the fact that it's already beaten this opponent to affect its perception of this game in any way, shape, or form.
Yes, you know, in a 33-point effort by a freshman in Michigan State in East Lansing will get Purdue's attention without question. You know, what do you make of the shooting, you know, which the last couple of games hasn't been as good? Is that statistically just the way things are going to roll from time to time? I mean, Purdue's had good looks, it seems, for the most part, and you've been used to P.J. Thompson hitting every shot he almost throws up. You've been used to Matthias doing the same. Anything that you see that isn't happening that should be?
It's probably just the natural ebbs and flows of a season, of a long season. You know, Purdue's been better on defense the last couple games, not as good on offense against the very high standard they'd set prior. Maybe the added concentration, the added effort at the defensive end maybe takes a little bit something away from, you know, your legs, your mind, whatever the case may be. I doubt that's the case.
Yeah,
that's just me theorizing. Purdue has had teams before that have been good on defense and offense at the same time. A lot of teams in college basketball are really good on defense and offense at the same time. It's not an impossibility by any stretch of the imagination. That's just me throwing something out there. But more than anything, I think it's probably just the natural ebbs and flows of a season, and the fact that the standard is unbelievably high. I mean, Purdue is an unbelievable offensive team for the majority of the Big Ten season prior to the Indiana game, and they've had two mortal three-point shooting games. And it's just, they were so good before that normal seems like bad. And you've still been able to win. That's obviously the most important part. But one has to think that Purdue has too many good shooters, you know, to be going 6 of 24, 6 of 27, whatever it's been here these last couple of games. Again, so what I said before is when this team plays offense the way it did pre-Indiana and defense the way it's played since Indiana, you know, this is going to be a really difficult team to beat.
Yeah, I think that's a very appropriate comment, and I think it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out here in the next couple of weeks. You obviously made a trip to Crown Point to see Purdue's newest recruit. What were your thoughts in terms of what you saw up there last Friday night? And I know you talked about it on the site some, but this is a young man that has an ability to be similar to some of the guys that Purdue has now.
Yeah, I could have told you Purdue was taking Sasha Stefanovic last June, the first time I saw him, because he's what Purdue loves about Dakota Matthias and Ryan Klein. For one thing, and when you look at their roster progression here, you know, Dakota Matthias is going to be a senior next year. Dakota Matthias is going to be a senior next year. Ryan Klein will be a junior. Those guys will be transitioning out of the program. You know, Matt Painter mandated a couple years ago we want a shooter within reason in every single class. Prior to this point, this big 2017 class did not have one. And you don't want to see what you've built here lately from a skill level standpoint fall off. And I thought it was really important for Purdue to balance out some of the length and athleticism they've got with their other 2017 kids with another shooter. And this is a player who's a really, really good shooter, but a very good basketball player too, has a good sense for the game, is smart, can pass, can do some things off the dribble. Has a little bit of Northwest Indiana toughness to him, although I wouldn't call him tough, you know, per se by any, you know, as a defining characteristic. He's not tough, but he has a lot of intangibles about him. He really wants to be at Purdue, and I think in recruiting, there's absolute value to that. When a kid is coming to Purdue because he wants to be something bigger than a part of himself, bigger than some part of something bigger than himself.
Right,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
I cannot speak today. When you have a kid coming to Purdue to be part of something bigger than himself, when this is really important to him, when the investment is built in and you don't have to coach it in him, I think there's real value in that. You've seen that over the years with certain players, the Robbie Hummels, the Chris Kramers, the Lewis Jacksons, the Ryan Smiths, whoever else. I think there is absolute value in that for Purdue. And from a skills perspective, he fits right in. He's exactly what they're looking for. So I think it was kind of a no-brainer. As long as Purdue had room for him to take him, obviously the Basil Smotherman thing made room for him. So here he is. I think it's a good addition.
Yeah, and you have another,
Sure.
possibly another, still like to possibly get another big guy? Is that,
I think you have to.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, obviously, they're recruiting for Caleb Swanigan's scholarship. I think we can all agree, and I'm not theorizing here. I'm speaking from a knowledge base. He is very unlikely to be at Purdue next year. You look at things as they are. Jaquil Taylor has been unable to stay healthy. You can't look at him as any sort of known commodity. Matt Harms is obviously in the program already, which is huge for his development, but still, is he going to be ready next year to help you? He's got to get bigger and stronger. He's got to get, physically in a position where he can help you right away. So when you look at your team next year moving forward, you're going to end up sliding Vince Edwards over to the 4. You're going to be obviously playing Isaac Haas at the 5. You've got Eden Ewing coming in who can help you from a physical standpoint as the junior college transfer, but that's 3 guys. I don't know where Matt Harms is going to be physically. We don't have any idea what to expect from Jaquil Taylor. I think it's really important Purdue get another big body in there, somebody physically ready to play preferably, if not physically ready to play next year, just a good basketball player. Because this isn't just about next year.
Yeah.
This is about Isaac Haas is gone after next year too. Jaquil Taylor, who knows what's going to happen with him. You have to get big guys for 2018 and moving forward as well. So this spring need isn't just an immediate need, it's a long-term need as well. So if you can get a good high school player who can come in and help you next year and then be part of your program after that, after Isaac Haas is gone, and all of a sudden this entire wave of size that you've built your whole program on the last few years, A.J. Hammonds, Caleb Swanigan, Isaac Haas, it's all gone. You have to get your next wave of post players. And right now, everybody on paper has a little bit of a uncertainty about it because you don't know where they're going to be with their health or with their development. Yeah. So Purdue's got to get somebody in the spring.
All right. Well, that will be a storyline that we'll be watching on goldenblack.com from now until that happens. So we want to thank Brian and for joining us in segment 3. We want to thank also Larry Clisby and Brian Brom as well. If you missed part of this show, Gordon will chop it up and we'll put it up on the site as well here within about an hour or so. Really good interviews today. I thought everybody that came brought their A game in terms of interesting things to say. We appreciate that. Even Brian did that.
Sure.
Whether you like it or not. And we want to thank our sponsors, Triple X on the Hill, but on the level of Purdue tradition since 1929, John Basham and Basham Rental, and of course Hilton Garden Inn, and State Farm agent Trent Johnson. We appreciate you. You've been with us for a long time, all of you, and very, very important to us here at Golden Black. So if you're in the area here, I hope you can get outside. If you can't, it's going to be a very nice weekend as you come down for tomorrow's Michigan State game as well. Perfect weather in central Indiana for February. We'll look forward to talking to you next week. We'll have another assistant coach on as well. Matt Rector will bring one by, so we'll get a chance to meet another Purdue football assistant coach. Thank Gordon and Cammie, too, back in the back room for all that you're going through. Very challenging time with our WLFI brethren here because of some of the changes going on, and they're working their way through it. We'll look forward to seeing you next week on Golden Black Live.